All rise. Third Circuit Court for the County of Wayne is now in session. The Honorable Judge Vonda R. Evans presiding. Please be seated. Remain quiet while court is in session.
Ready.
Okay, very good. We ready? Bassett, step forward, sir.
This is case number 157226. The people versus Gerard Bassett. Mr. Bassett is here today for a final conference.
Appearance for the record.
John Donaldson, on behalf of the people.
There goes on behalf of Mr. Bassett.
All right, young man, raise your right hand. You sound swear to first testimony by the witness that truth, don't truth, nothing but truth of the God. You're pleading guilty to CCW for 10% of what reported since you for 5 years of prison. You understand that? Counts 1, 3, and 4 will be dismissed. You understand that? So the Constitution right to get up and I'm going to right to give them authority after jury trial. To be presumed innocent, to prove this beyond reasonable doubt, and the prosecution proved them to be guilty. You gotta listen, okay? They have the witnesses against the defendant for a trial. Question witness against you. They have the court order any witnesses to defend answer to your trial. I'm sorry, sir. Can you move down a little bit so you can be seated, please? Should make sound during the trial. Tonight is found accused against you and testify trial please so chose. Anybody promise you to put your otherwise made you plead guilty. You're doing it from own free will. If you want to kill with you by leaving out by right. You understand that? What happened on September 21st, 2014 at Berkshire and Eastbourne in the city, Trade County of Wayne. Did you have a gun? Okay, and you had it on you? Where was it? In your jacket? Where was it? In your pocket? You put it there? You knew you didn't have a permit to have a gun, did you? And they had the city, Trade County of Wayne. It just had a person making bonafide because they just my parents don't understand until when they question for accept the sunset.
This date will be January 6th.
Okay, Gary, is anything else ready at this time?
Have a seat, young man. Don't leave. Yeah, can we have Mr. Glover out?
Glover.
This is case number 156057 People versus Daryl Glover. Today was the date for June trial.
William Melendez, the people.
There goes on behalf of Mr. Glover.
Step forward, young man. Step forward. February, how you doing, sir? February 16 on the trial, and I try to get a spin and nobody will take it. Okay, so please February 16. All right.
Well, come on.
All right.
Okay.
Next matter.
Yeah. Attorney on justice.
Justice. No one's present. Oh, Christine Justice. Robert Justice. Where is he?
He's down here with us. This is case number 14. Case number 14-10080 People versus Robert Justice. Mr. Justice is due in court today for a special plea trial.
Appears for the record.
John Donaldson, on behalf of the people.
If this is a question I answer your case, Mr. Phillips, you may answer the county jail once picked up. If he comes in, let me know. That goes back. Thank you. Next matter.
Yeah. We got another? Okay, attorney on Murph.
Murph.
Is the attorney here?
He's
not here.
He's not here.
How about attorney on Moore or the three defendants? No, I guess they don't wait.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, look, jury. Oh, wait a minute. Is there anything we need to go on the record with Melendez about? Mr. Thomas?
Your Honor, at some point, I know that we've had...
I didn't ask to call it yet. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Are we on the record or
No.
All right. No, I don't. I'm going to make a record at a later point in time about what we talked about in sidebars previously, but not
Okay,
now.
very good. Bring your jury out.
All right.
Donaldson here on behalf of the people.
Carmen DeFranco on behalf of the people.
John Donaldson on behalf of the people.
James Thompson on behalf of Mr. Melendez, who's here today, Judge.
Right, Your Honor, Alex Flynn on behalf of Mr. Melendez.
Very good, thank you. All your next.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, the people call Amy Williams to the stand.
The attorney's opposed. Let me take a 5-minute recess.
All right. All right.
No, this one.
You're smiling.
They haven't done that, but I don't know what they get.
Ready. Where's the witness? Madam. Raise your right hand. I'm sorry. You have to come forward in front of the computer. Raise your right hand. Turn toward me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony about giving this matter the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, self you got? But you had to take that jacket off, okay? All right, very good. Thank you. Then take this black seat where there's a microphone at the witness. Madam, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. Once you're seated and comfortable, please state your name for the jury.
Amy Williams,
Sit down. Oh, wait, you're gonna be here for a minute. Spell your first and last name.
A-M-Y, last name W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Williams, I'm going to ask you some questions about the evening of January 28th, 2015. Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
Where were you in the evening hours of January 28th?
I was home.
Where is home?
Pine Ridge Park Apartments.
And where is that located, in what city?
It's in Inkster.
What street is the apartment complex located on?
Oakland.
What were you doing that evening?
I was drinking.
When you say drinking alcohol?
Drinking alcohol at home, yes.
Were you there with anyone?
Yes, my fiance, Tyrone Heath.
Do you live with Mr. Heath?
Yes, I do.
What type of day or night was this?
What type of day or night?
Was it in the morning, afternoon, or
No,
night?
it was at night.
What about what time?
9:30, 10 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Was there anyone else at your home on that evening?
Yes, my fiance, Tyrone Heath.
I'm sorry, in addition to you two.
Just me and him.
Do you know an individual by the name of Floyd Dent?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Mr. Dent?
A good friend.
Okay, wait a minute, hold on for a minute. Is your fiance blind?
Yes, he is.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
What do you do for a living? We'll jump off from the judges.
Caregiver, chore provider. I work for the state. Take care of the sick and the elderly. I take care of Mr. Heath as well.
So in addition to being your fiance, he's also one of the people you
Take care of,
all
yes.
right, great. Now, you indicated that you know an individual by the name of Floyd Dent. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
How long have you known Mr. Dent?
8 years.
Did you speak with Mr. Dent on January 28th?
Yes, I did.
Without going into the actual conversation, why did you speak to him that night?
I called him to ask him to bring me some alcohol.
Why did you want him to bring you alcohol?
Because I couldn't drive. I was already drinking.
Did you ask for any alcohol in specific?
Yes. Remy Martin VSOP, a pint, and a 40 ounce of Bud Light.
At some point, does Mr. Dent agree to bring you those items?
Yes, he did.
At some point, does he come to the apartment complex?
Yes, he did.
Approximately what time does that take place? Do you know?
Maybe 9:45, 10 o'clock.
When he arrives, how does he let you know that he's there? Does he ring a doorbell? What happens?
You know, he called me and let me know that he was pulling in.
Now, why does he have to call you to let you know?
Generally, our gate works. This particular day, the gate wasn't working.
When you say the gate works, what are we talking about?
We have an electric gate at the apartment building. You have to use a keypad to let someone in. But this particular day, it was winter, and the snow is on the gate, and it makes it hard for it to open and close, so it's open.
Could Mr. Dent just come up to your apartment then if he could get into the gate?
No, he can get into the parking lot, but he couldn't get in the door.
Why is that?
We have a wand access. It's a key access to get into the door.
So you indicated that he called you and let you know he was there?
Yes.
Well, hearsay, but it's already out.
Go ahead.
What do you do at that point?
I come outside to retrieve my drink.
Do you know which door you exit from?
Yeah, the side door.
Do you know if that's...
Closer to Inkster Road.
Is that the east gate, the west gate? Do you know anything like that?
That would be the east gate.
When you go out of the east gate, or excuse me, when you go out of the east door, what happens to the door behind you?
It closes and locks.
Where was Mr. Dent when you went outside?
He was in my normal parking space directly in front of the door.
When you went outside, was he still in his vehicle?
Yeah, when I went outside, he was still in his vehicle.
Do you speak with Mr. Dent?
Yes, and when I came out directly to his car, he got out of his car and gave me my alcohol out the back seat.
What specifically did he give you?
He gave me Remy Martin VSOP and a 40 ounce of Bud Light.
So who is the Bud Light for?
Me,
Oh, okay.
Chaser.
Oh, got it.
After Mr. Dent gives you those items, what happens next?
He goes to the back of his trunk to get a towel out to wipe his car down. I guess he had just washed it.
When he gives you the alcohol, do you... front of a pad or something?
Yeah, it's a pad on the door, and you wave it in front of it, makes a noise, and you pull the handle.
At that point, you go back upstairs?
Yes,
Or to your apartment?
yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Take your time. Can I turn this around?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Anything further?
Nothing further from this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
Williams, my name is Jim Thomas. How are you?
Fine, and you?
We have never met, have we?
No, sir.
You had met with and spoke with Lieutenant Powell in this case, is that right?
Yes,
She had an interview with you, did she not?
yes, you did.
And it was about the incident that had occurred this night?
Yes,
Now, you say you know Mr. Dent, is that right?
yes, sir.
You consider him to be a good friend.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, did you know or have any idea that Mr. Dent was going to be asking you to be a witness in this case?
No,
Did he ask you to be a witness in any other matter?
no, sir.
You were aware, were you not, that he had a civil suit?
Objection.
Yeah, I'll object to that, Judge.
Goes to motive?
For her?
Yeah, his friend, her friend.
Oh, no.
No? All right. How many times have you talked to Mr. Dent since the incident?
Say 3 times.
And where
You
were
don't
those
talk to her
times?
no more?
Every blue moon,
Okay.
just to check on them.
You ever bring any alcohol out to you since then?
No, sir.
All right. When did you talk to him last?
A month ago,
A month ago. Was that by phone or was that in person? And where were you?
I was at home.
And how long was that phone conversation?
Could have been 5 minutes.
Wasn't you asking him to come out for alcohol, is that right?
No, sir.
All right. Did he talk at all, in any way at all, about the case?
No, sir.
When was the last time that you spoke to him before that?
Can't remember.
You told me that there were 3 occasions. You told me one about a month ago.
Yeah, it was about a
You
month
talk-
ago was the last time.
He didn't talk to you this week.
No, sir.
He didn't talk to you within the month between then and now.
No, sir.
Okay. Did he talk to you between the time, I'm assuming, of January 28th and now, 2 more times?
Yes.
Okay. And in those 2 occasions, was it on the phone or was it in person?
Each time was over the phone.
Did you ever meet him at his lawyer's office?
No, sir.
Did you ever speak to his lawyer? Not these people here, his other lawyer.
No, sir.
Never did.
No, sir.
Okay. And are you telling me then that you did not talk to him at all about the case? You'd have a right to do it, but not to talk about the case between the time of January 28th and now?
No, just ask how he's doing.
How's he doing?
Yes.
Nothing, not anything about the lawsuit.
No, sir.
Not anything about the criminal case.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's cumulative.
Well, I just got to be clear. All right. So now, ma'am, you said that he pulled into the eastern parking lot. Remember what the weather was that night?
It was cold.
Very cold, was it not?
Sir.
Below freezing?
I'm not sure.
Heavy wind chill?
It was cold.
Now, do you remember what Mr. Dent was wearing that night on January 28th when he came to see you and bring drinks to you?
Yeah, he had on a skull cap and a jacket.
Did you describe a dark jacket?
No, it was a lighter jacket. It was cream and blue or something.
Have you looked at a video of the events of this case at all?
Just what I see on the news.
How many times did you see what you saw on the news?
Maybe 4 or 5 times.
At one time, you were spoken to by an investigator from me. You remember that?
Yeah.
Remember
came to my door.
speaking to Mr. George Gurgis?
Not sure of the name, but I know 2 gentlemen came to my door.
All right. Did you tell him that he was wearing a dark jacket that night?
No, I'm not sure.
Did you tell him it was very cold and freezing?
No, I told him it was cold.
You don't remember whether it was below 0 that night or below freezing?
She said it was cold.
That's enough, I guess. All right. Now, you say that you called him for him to bring alcohol to you.
Yes, sir.
And when was it that you called him to bring alcohol to you?
Between 9:30 and 10.
So, are you saying that there was a short time frame between when you called him and when it was that he brought the alcohol?
brought it to me in about 15 minutes.
In 15 minutes?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you see phone records about this case relating to Mr. Dent?
No, sir.
But it was you that called him,
Yes, sir.
and that he came to see you 15 minutes later.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, he had in his possession what it was that you had discussed for the first time on that phone conversation, and that is, bring me a beer, bring me some VSOP.
Remy Martin.
Was it Remy Martin, VSOP?
Remy Martin, VSOP.
Okay. Now, you say that he got out of the car,
Yes, sir.
and he talked to you?
Yes, sir.
And did he talk to you for 10 to 15 minutes?
No, 5 or 4 minutes.
Did you tell Mr. Gurgis 10 to 15 minutes?
No, I don't.
You recall talking to him about how long it was that you were out there outside of the car with Mr. Dent, with Mr. Gurgis? Remember talking to him about that?
No, I don't.
So you don't remember that you talked to him about it, and you're saying it was 4 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Okay. Now, well, how long did it take for you to come downstairs?
I'm the second door from the door, so it would take me just a couple seconds to get downstairs.
Did you see the car?
Yes, I can see his car when you come out of my door.
All right, now, you said something, and I was not paying quite enough attention as I should have. Did you say that the gate was open?
Yes,
Okay, so he didn't have to be buzzed in, did he?
not in the gate.
Not into the gate of the parking lot of the Park Ridge Apartments?
Pine Ridge Park
Pine Ridge
Apartment.
Apartments. He did not?
No.
Did you have a gate card?
Yes.
Did your fiancé, Mr. Heath, did he have a gate card?
No, he has a wand to get in the door. He doesn't have a gate card. He doesn't drive.
But it wasn't necessary for either you or he to use the gate card in order to get into the parking lot.
No, it was broken.
It was broken. All right. Now, so when you go outside, do you have your coat on?
Yeah.
Okay. And was it your intention to go outside and drink with Mr. Dent at that time, or just to get the liquor that he was bringing?
Just to get the liquor that he was bringing.
And the beer as well?
Yes, sir.
Did you drink the liquor outside?
No.
All right. Mr. Heath is your fiancé, right?
Yes, sir.
You take care of him?
Yes, sir.
And you are employed by the state to do that?
Yes. I'm a patrol provider for the state. I have 3 other clients.
And they pay you?
State does.
Okay, but this night, was it your intention to take the alcohol inside and to drink the beer with Mr. Heath?
No, he doesn't drink.
Or to drink the VSOP with Mr. Heath?
Drink it by myself.
I'm going to take you back in time now, before Mr. Dent got there. Okay? You had been drinking that night.
Yes, sir.
And you had been drinking beer and?
Remy, VSOP.
And Remy VSOP. And you were out, right?
What do you mean out?
You didn't have any, so you asked Mr. Dent to bring it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would you agree with me that that was fairly quickly that he arrived for you?
No.
Okay, now, did you have your prior Remy VSOP, was that a pint?
What difference does it make?
Because it goes to quantity. I want to know how much she was drinking. It goes to her ability to recall
Okay.
and her observation.
Ma'am, were you you had been drinking for years, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you drunk that night?
Well, Judge, I'd object to that part. Did you drink a pint of VSOP?
I didn't drink the whole pint that he brought me, no.
No, no, ma'am. The pint that you had before, had that whole pint been consumed?
I'll object. There's no evidence that she had a full pint before.
Yeah, that is true. Wait a minute, be quiet. How much had you been drinking before, ma'am?
I had half a pint before you.
Okay, all right, so you had a pint that night at 2:40. Okay, go ahead.
And 240s. Is that what you
I
said?
had a 40 before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to observe Mr. Dent?
For what?
When he came and dropped the liquor off?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you look at him?
Yes, I looked at it.
Okay.
Were his eyes glassy?
No, sir.
Was he agitated?
No.
Did you smell any alcohol on him?
No.
Did he leave right away?
After us talking 4 to 5 minutes, yes, he did.
And did he make a left-hand turn out of the apartment complex?
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
You watch him?
Going out the gate, and then I went in the house.
Chip, how long were you outside after he left?
Right after he went out the gate, I went in the house. He turned to the left to go down Oakland.
And how far did he get before you were in the house?
Probably out the gate to the left, and I went in the door.
Out the gate to the left. Did you have an opportunity, or did you have a view of Michigan Avenue at that time?
No, my window is not towards Michigan Avenue.
Obviously, you know what a marked Inkster police car looks like, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you see a marked Inkster police car turn right off of Michigan onto Fairbairn?
No.
Fairbairn, then onto Oakley?
No.
Was Mr. Dent on the phone with you at any time? I'm sorry, strike that. Was Mr. Dent on the phone at any time that he was with you?
I don't get the question.
Okay, well, you told us what he did while he was there,
Right.
correct? You know that you saw him, you were in his presence during that time that you were with him, right?
Yes.
So it's redundant for me to say that, but at any time while he was there, was he engaged in any phone conversation?
No.
You know whether or not you know he has a cell phone, right?
Yes.
You know what his cell phone number is, right?
Yes.
Now, you say he was there for 4 to 5 minutes. Is it possible that he was there for longer?
No, sir.
4 to 5 minutes. Were you looking at a clock before you came out?
No.
Did you look at a clock when you went back in?
Probably, yeah. I was sitting in front of the TV. It's a clock on the TV.
Okay. What was the exact time then when you went back in?
It was like 9:55, 9:50.
9:55, 9?
50.
Okay. You're sure of that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the reason why I'm asking you about the 4 to 5 minutes is you said that at some point in time that he came out and he towed down his car.
Yeah, he wiped down the inside of the door well when he opened his door from it dripping, and he put his towel back in the car and got in the car and left.
Okay. So there would have been a towel in his car then at that time?
He should have had a few towels in the back trunk.
Okay.
That's all he has.
And so he met with you, he gave you the alcohol, you had a conversation, he wipes down the car, and it was only 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't wipe down the whole car, just wiped down the inside of his door well.
But you're sure it was after 9:50 when you...
Do you know, ma'am?
Judge, I'm asking the question.
No, and I'm asking a
Well,
question
I
too.
object.
Well, fine. Do you know? Now answer the question.
I'm sure it was between 9:50 and 9:55.
Very good, okay, thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Hold on one second, Judge. Thank you.
Redirect.
Jim, if you want to take my stuff, I don't want to look at any of your...
You don't want to see the
I don't want to see his top secret strategy, Judge.
You don't want that.
Defend to the best of my ability, it's no secret.
Ms. Williams, do you have to swipe your key fob to get out of the apartment complex?
No.
Just to get back in?
Yes.
What are the last 4 digits of your cell phone number?
3085.
Anything further?
Give me just a moment, Judge.
Okay.
Do you know what type of vehicle Mr. Dent drives?
Cadillac.
Newer model, old model?
Lower model.
This is redirect.
I understand, Judge, but counsel was asking...
No, he didn't ask about no, of the year. This is redirect is limited. Go ahead.
Do you know of anyone else in the neighborhood who drives a vehicle similar to Mr. Dent's?
I don't know them, but there is another vehicle that rides to my neighborhood. Looks just like it, but it has something broken on the passenger side of
Counsel,
the
this is
bumper.
beyond the scope. Go ahead. I'm going to give you a little latitude. Anything else?
May I have a moment, Judge?
Take it down.
Nothing further, Judge.
Step down. Step down. Stretch right next witness.
This time, Your Honor, you can call Lauren Williams to the stand.
Lauren Williams.
That's correct.
Lauren Williams. You need to see it, Lauren. Take your jacket off, sir. Step forward, witness, step forward. Step forward, witness. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to our testimony about the goodness and the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, nothing but God? Yes, Your Honor. Then you have a seat there. Thank you. Spell your first and last name, and you can begin your examination.
Thank you.
Lorenwilliams.
You may proceed, Counselor Law.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, I'm going to ask you some questions about the January 28th of 2015. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
All right. Where were you working at that time?
At Pine Ridge Park Apartments.
And where is Pine Ridge Park Apartments located?
In Inkster, near John Daly in Michigan.
What street is the actual complex on?
Oakland.
What did you do?
It's the first block north of Michigan Avenue.
Okay.
What did you do for the apartment complex at that time?
Just manager.
Did you manage the whole property, or were you a shift manager? What specific did you do?
The whole property.
Your Honor, let the record reflect I'm showing opposing counsel what's been marked for identification purposes as People's Proposed Exhibit Number 11.
Well, Your Honor, I'm going to object now, based on the testimony that the witness is relevant.
I don't even know what it is, but if I did know what it is, I could rule on it.
May we approach?
No, can you just say? Is that cell phone records or something?
No, Judge, these are the records of the key fobs and gate swipes that must be required to enter and exit the property.
Well, see, we must be required. We already heard from the witness that the gate was broke.
But the door was not, Judge, and she indicated that she walked through that door. These records clearly substantiate her claims.
Cumulative.
Wow.
I said
You know-
cumulative. I'm not going to allow it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
May I approach the witness?
No, it's cumulative. Let's move on.
No further questions from this witness, Judge.
Cross-examination?
No.
Step down. Next witness.
He will call Jennifer Wilson to the stand.
Wilson. How many more witnesses do you have?
I believe two.
After this witness?
At least one after this witness, Judge.
Okay, very good. There's a good chance that we're going to be finishing the people's case today, no later than around noon or 12:30. As I indicated to you before, defense does not have to put on any case, but if they choose to, we'll go into that case. Step forward, witness. Raise your right hand. Step before the computer. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony about the witness has the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, God? Yeah. Please continue to spell your first and last name.
Jennifer Wilson, JENNIFER, WILSON.
Very good. You may proceed, Counselor.
Good morning, ma'am. What is your current occupation?
Currently, I'm the
Madam, we have to, you push that away, yeah.
I'm
Speak
sorry.
up, I'm sorry.
Currently, I'm the Assistant Laboratory Director for the Michigan State Police Lansing forensic laboratory.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been the assistant lab director for just a couple of weeks. Before that, I spent 2.5 years as the supervisor of the toxicology unit for that laboratory. And prior to that, since 2005, I was a forensic scientist in the toxicology unit at that laboratory.
Do you have any specific education or training that led to your becoming a forensic scientist?
I have a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University in forensic science. Prior to this position with the Michigan State Police, I also spent 5 years working for the Toxicology Testing Center, testing blood and urine samples for alcohol and drug content.
Have you, during the course of your employment in either of those locations, had the occasion to testify as an expert witness as to blood and alcohol toxicology reports?
With my time at the State Police, I have.
Approximately how many times, if you can recall?
About 110.
Have you testified in the Third Circuit Court in Wayne County as an expert in toxicology?
I have.
Your Honor, at this time, the people would move to tender Ms. Wilson as an expert in toxicology.
Any objection?
No objection as it relates to the tax that she did.
Okay.
Well, Judge-
It doesn't. Either she's an expert or she's not.
As it relates to the test that she did, she's an expert, I agree.
Okay. if you-
Judge, I'm tendering her as an expert in toxicology.
Period.
Then voir dire. All right. Ma'am, you have a bachelor's degree?
That's correct.
A bachelor's in what?
It's in forensic science.
And you have not pursued a master's degree, have you?
I have not.
And you have not pursued a doctorate degree?
That's correct.
You are testifying on behalf of the state of Michigan, is that right?
I've been called by the prosecution.
How many times have you been called by a defense in your entire career?
Probably at least 10.
And that's 10 out of literally hundreds of times that you testified.
I've testified about 110 times.
Right. Did you personally...
Well, wait a minute. Where have you testified?
All over the state of Michigan, Your
Can
Honor.
you just specifically say where, how many, could you say, you say all of Michigan?
Well, our unit handles all of the 83 counties in the state, so we get evidence from all counties. So I've testified here in circuit court all the way up to the UP district and circuit court across the state.
Okay, dear, have you ever testified in federal court?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
So, in approximately 10% of the cases you've been called by the defense?
I've been subpoenaed by the defense approximately 10 times. I don't know that I testified in all of those.
So I asked you, how many times have you testified for the defense?
I'm sorry, I thought you asked how many times I had been called by the defense to
Please
testify,
clarify.
which was subpoenaed.
Please clarify.
So in several cases that I've done, usually I am subpoenaed by the prosecution. In some cases, I'll receive a subpoena from both the prosecution and the defense. In other cases, I'll receive a subpoena just from the defense. So approximately 10 times, I've received subpoenas by the defense.
My question was, how many times have you testified for the defense?
I don't testify for either side, I testify to my results.
So let me
I've been
clarify.
called by the defense about 10 times.
How many times that you were subpoenaed by the defense were you called?
I don't know the exact number.
It would have been less.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ma'am, did you personally conduct the blood test in this case?
I did.
Was it done by you or by someone under your supervision?
I did the blood test.
And did you do the original blood test that was...
This is voir dire.
Well, it goes to her
Sounds like
ability to
examination.
testify. Did you testify the first and the second blood test?
The alcohol test was done by one of my scientists in my unit. I tested the blood for the drugs. That is the test that I prepared.
And how many tests were done on the drugs?
I'm not allowing, don't answer.
What-
This
why?
is voir dire as to her qualifications to be an expert.
Or to testify because she has to have done the test.
So that's not appropriate. The voir dire was limited only to her qualifications. Do you stipulate?
I do not.
Okay, very good. The court is going to make the following finding. Based on her testimony, she is an expert in the field of toxicology. What that means is she can give her expert opinion in that area. Ordinarily, only lay witnesses can testify to what they saw, what they heard. This witness can testify as to an expert in that area. You may give it whatever way you choose. You may give it some, none, or all. It's up to you because you're the judges of the fact. She is so qualified.
Thank you, Judge.
Wow. She's rolled. She hasn't said that she did the test. If she says she does the test, I'm going to say no to the objection.
Can we approach for a moment?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Judge. With that, I believe there is a stipulation that People's Proposed Exhibits 8, 9, and 10 will be admitted.
And they are.
Toxicology reports from the Michigan State Police.
Any objections?
May I approach the witness with what has been entered as People's Proposed Exhibits 8 and 9?
You may.
Ms. Wilson, do you recognize the two documents that I'm handing you that have been marked as People's Proposed, that have been admitted as People's Exhibits 8 and 9?
Yes, I did.
What are those documents?
These are copies of the laboratory reports that were prepared by the toxicology unit and with the results of this case.
Which is 8? Which one is, yes, 8, what specifically was tested in Exhibit 8?
Exhibit 8 is the laboratory report detailing the alcohol results, and Exhibit 9 is the laboratory report detailing the drug confirmation results.
You indicated in your testimony earlier with Mr. Thomas that you specifically conducted one of the tests and another one was not conducted by you, but rather someone under your charge. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Identify which exhibit was conducted by yourself and which one was conducted by someone else.
Exhibit 8, the alcohol exhibit, was performed by Logan Albertson, one of my scientists in the toxicology unit. Exhibit 9, the drug confirmation, was performed by myself.
Are you familiar with the procedures that your unit conducts the alcohol testing?
Yes.
Does it indicate on that report how the alcohol testing was done?
You mean the testing instruments that were used?
Correct.
Yes, it does at the bottom.
All right. And what specific instruments were used in determining alcohol content in this particular instance?
Alcohol content is confirmed using gas chromatography or GC.
What is gas chromatography?
It is an instrument that's used to separate a mixture into its component parts, and then we're able to identify each of those parts as they go through a detector in the instrument.
Do you know the individual whose blood this was that was sent to the lab?
Do I know him personally?
No. Does the report indicate whose blood was tested?
Yes, it does.
Who was the individual whose blood was submitted?
Floyd Dent.
As it relates to exhibit number 8, was Mr. Albertson able to make a determination as to the amount of alcohol in Mr. Dent's blood?
Yes.
What was that determination?
It was 0.000 grams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood.
That would mean that there was no alcohol in Mr. Dent's system?
At the time of the blood draw, correct.
I'd like to now direct your attention to exhibit number 9. You performed this test, did you?
Yes, I did.
What specifically did you do with the blood on this particular instance?
The confirmatory analysis for drug analysis is a two-step process. The blood sample is first screened for any potential drug classes that might be present. And then if there are any drug classes present or if there are any drugs suspected that could fall outside of the scope of that screen, we perform a GCMS confirmation. I performed the GCMS confirmation in this case.
All right. I'd like to talk to you about this two-step process. Well, before we do that, let me just ask you again. Whose blood was submitted in this particular instance?
Floyd Dent.
Right. Is this the same sample that was tested earlier for alcohol?
The alcohol test was done off of tube 1, and the blood test for drugs was done off of tube 1 and 2.
Why was the alcohol test done off both tubes? Or excuse me, why was the drug test done off of both tubes?
We need a minimum amount of 2 milliliters to perform the drug confirmation. Tube number 1 did not have enough volume to perform the drug confirmation, so I used tube number 2, but the drug screen was done off of tube number 1.
Now, let's explain what a drug screen is. What specifically does that mean?
That means that the blood sample is prepared for analysis and put through a screening instrument, usually an immunoassay instrument, that can tell whether there are possibly certain drug classes present or not present. So you may get what's considered a presumptive positive for different classes of drugs, meaning cannabinoids, which would be THC or marijuana, or opiates, which would encompass a large number of opiate class drugs. If you do get that presumptive positive on the screen, then you need to perform a confirmatory analysis before reporting those results.
Why do you have to perform a confirmatory analysis?
The screen is what's called a presumptive test. It is a test by which it gives a positive or a negative result, but the positives are called presumptive positives because it's not specifically identifying, for instance, which opiate may be present. It's saying there might be an opiate class drug here, but we don't know which one. So then we perform the second test, which is definitive. We're able to go in and we're able to say, yes, we did identify an opiate, and it is this particular opiate.
In this particular case, did you conduct this immunoassay screening on Mr. Dent's blood?
My technician performed the screening.
Based on the results of that screening, what did you do?
Well, the screen did not have any positive findings, but we had been requested by the police department to perform a full drug analysis on this case. So I went ahead and did the confirmatory testing because we are able to identify up to 200 drugs with the confirmatory testing, many of which will not show up on the screen.
Can you explain that? Why does
Sure.
one test say one thing and another test says another thing?
The drug screen only looks for certain classes of drugs. So it will look for amphetamines, methamphetamine, cocaine metabolites, benzodiazepines. There are a number of classes of drugs, but say somebody was taking maybe a prescription antidepressant or a prescription seizure medication. Those drugs would not show up as a positive in any of the screening categories. So we're able to do the confirmatory test that encompasses a large number of drugs that aren't included in that screen.
Does the confirmatory test also look for metabolites of parent drugs?
It does.
All right, let's talk about what a metabolite is. You mentioned when the judge asked you a question that sometimes the screens look for a cocaine metabolite. What is a metabolite?
A metabolite is a breakdown product of the what's called the parent drug in the body. So if somebody ingests a drug, some drugs have metabolites that we can identify. If, for instance, somebody ingests cocaine, then we'll see a large amount of that parent drug cocaine, but as the body starts breaking that down and trying to eliminate it, it breaks it down by changing it into metabolites. Then those metabolites are also detectable in the blood and the urine as breakdown products of the parent drug.
Do you know if the metabolite for cocaine specifically has any hallucinogenic or properties to affect the body in any way?
Objection. We're not talking about the metabolites that's already been ingested. We're talking about cocaine.
Judge, I don't believe you can ingest a metabolite. She's indicated what a metabolite is. I'm asking
And
if...
it's irrelevant whether or not it causes it a hallucination. It is the use of cocaine that may, and that's the question. Does it?
Very good. Well, you know what?
Can I rephrase, Judge?
Please.
Can you get high? Can you be high with just a metabolite in your system?
Cocaine has many different metabolites. Some are pharmacologically active, most are not.
What does pharmacologically mean?
Pharmacologically active means that it has some effect on the body. So active versus inactive metabolite. An active metabolite would be giving you some effect like the parent drug would. An inactive metabolite does not have any effect on your brain. So most of the cocaine metabolites are inactive, but there are some that are active.
Do you know specifically if benzoylecgonine,
Benzoylecgonine.
is that inert or active? Do you know?
To the best of my knowledge, that's inactive.
So you can't, if you have that in your system, you can't be high.
It's just an indicator that somebody has ingested cocaine. The cocaine is the drug that's going to give the high feeling.
In this particular case, you indicated that you did a confirmation screening. What was the result of that confirmation screening?
I identified one drug called phenytoin.
What is phenytoin?
Phenytoin is a medication often given in hospitals. It can also be prescribed for, it's an anti-seizure medication. So it can be prescribed for people who have epilepsy, or it can be prescribed for somebody who's having a seizure disorder.
Was there any cocaine in Mr. Dent's system in the blood that you tested?
I did not detect any cocaine.
Did you detect any metabolites of cocaine?
No, I did not.
Now, did you have an opportunity to review medical records relating to Mr. Dent from Garden City Hospital on the evening of January 28th, 2015?
I did.
All right. Did you happen to notice that there was a urine screen done at Garden City Hospital?
Yes, I did.
All right. As it relates to that urine screen, do you know what type of screening was done?
It was an immunoassay screening, similar to the one done in our laboratory.
Now, you indicated earlier that the immunoassay screen is the first step of determining what, if any, drugs are in the system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why do you do the confirmatory testing?
Well, it's kind of right there in the name of it. It's to confirm. It's to be sure that the drug is present, and also to identify the specific drug present to the exclusion of all other drugs.
In the medical records that you reviewed, are you aware if a confirmatory analysis was done by the Garden City Hospital?
I was not given any confirmatory analysis, just the screen.
Is there a particular are there problems that could come from just going off of the screening?
Well, you need to be cautious. It is possible to have a false positive test, meaning a test shows positive when, and then it doesn't actually confirm. So that's the reason for the confirmatory analysis.
You are aware of false positives with immunoassay tests as it relates to cocaine screens?
I'm familiar with it in that it can happen, yes.
As a toxicology unit, you indicated that you're in charge of this particular unit of the MSP toxicology lab. Is that correct?
I was, yes.
During your time in charge, and now as you sit here testifying, does your unit have a policy as it relates to testifying concerning immunoassay screens that your lab conducts?
The policy isn't about testifying to the immunoassay screens. We have a policy that if we do an immunoassay screen and it's negative, we can report those negative results. But if we do an immunoassay screen and it has a presumptive positive finding, then we have to perform confirmatory analysis before we can report that.
So if it's negative, you can report that right off. If it's positive, you got to do another test just to make sure that the first test confirms what it does.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, you indicated earlier that when cocaine is broken down in the body, it breaks down into metabolites. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the language used to describe how drugs break down in the system?
Yes.
What language is used specifically?
It's called the half-life of the drug.
What does half-life mean?
It's the amount of time it takes the body to eliminate half of the drug that's present.
Do drugs and metabolites each have half-lives?
They do.
Are they the same amount of time, those half-lives?
They might be, but in most cases they're different.
As it relates to cocaine, are you aware of the half-life of the metabolite that you said earlier much better than I did?
Benzolecamine?
That's the one. Are you familiar with the half-life of that drug, or that metabolite?
Yes, I am.
How long is the half-life of that metabolite?
According to the reference books in our laboratory, it's 4.5 hours.
Do you know the name of that reference book?
It is the disposition of drugs and toxins in... May I refer my notes to refresh?
Would that help you refresh your recollection?
Yes, it's the disposition of toxic drugs and chemicals in man, and it is by Randall Basalt.
That would be this large red book that I also have on my
Yes,
desk?
that is it.
Good. That's the one that you use as well? That's not your book, but that's the one you use?
That's not my book. We have many copies of it in our laboratory.
Okay, let's do this. Tell the judges of the facts, what a metabolite, what effect can it have, if anything?
The metabolites?
Right.
Some active metabolites can have an effect on the brain, but most of the time, metabolites are just an indicator that the drug was ingested and the body is in the process of breaking it down.
Okay, go ahead.
What was the half-life that you indicated for benzoylocanine?
Benzoylocanine,
That's the one.
4.5 hours.
What does, after the half-life goes and that time period is over, that 4.5 hours is over, what is left in the system?
Well, are we talking blood system, urine system, please? Can we be more
Oh,
specific?
okay. Does the half-life vary in blood or urine, as far as you know?
Well, the half-life is really talking about blood. The drug can be present in the urine for longer because your body is excreting it and it's collecting in the urine. But what it's saying is if you ingest this amount of drug and it's present in your blood, how long is it going to take to get out of your blood? 4.5 hours will take the benzoylocanine down to half of what it was in the beginning. And then after another 4.5 hours, you'll have half again as much as you did before.
So let me ask this question to you. So it stays in your urine longer than it stays in your blood?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
As it relates then to these half-lives, they continue until such time that the drug has been completely eliminated from the blood or the metabolite?
Both, yes.
In this particular instance, do you know what time the blood draw occurred for Mr. Dent that produced the vials that you examined?
I do have it in my notes if I could refer to it.
Would that help you refresh your recollection?
Yes. According to the submission form received with this case, the blood draw occurred on January 29th of 2015, tube number 1 at 3:58 a.m. and tube number 2 at 3:59 a.m.
All right. At that point in time, if there was no, you indicate there was no parent drug or metabolite in Mr. Dent's blood, is that correct?
That's correct.
Was Mr. Dent under the influence of cocaine?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you have to have cocaine in your system to be under the influence of cocaine?
You would need the parent drug or the active metabolite to be considered chemically under the influence.
And neither of,
Blood.
I'm sorry, and neither of those were in Mr. Dent's blood when you tested it?
Back it up. You said the parent or what?
Or an active metabolite.
Okay.
Would you like me to give an example?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked a lot about benzoylocanine. There's also another major metabolite called methylene ethyl ester, and these metabolites are inactive. But then there's also a metabolite called norcocaine or a metabolite called cocaethylene. Both of those are active metabolites. So if they were present in the blood, they could be having some effect on the person's brain and their reactions.
But when you define whether a person's under the influence, it's either the parent or the active metabolite that legally determines, or wait a minute, no, not legally, but in your profession says that a person is under the influence. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor. I'm talking about it in a chemical definition, not a legal definition. I don't want to confuse that.
So in your area, as a scientist, you consider a person would be under this influence if it was a parent or active metabolite?
In the blood,
In
correct.
the blood.
Correct.
Now, legally, you're not making that determination?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Now, Judge, my objection is going to go to the sample and when the sample was taken. He asked her generally whether he was under the influence. I certainly objected, you sustain it, but I want to be specific as to the time frame because the blood was drawn at 3:58 in the morning.
Okay. Oh, sustained. I mean, just explore that.
Yes, Judge. From the blood that you reviewed and that you tested from Mr. Dent, is there any indicators that Mr. Dent was under the influence when that blood was drawn?
No.
All right. You named 4 different metabolites for cocaine that I will not embarrass myself and try to mispronounce in front of the jury, but did you test for each one of those metabolites as well?
Yes.
Were any of those metabolites in the system?
No.
And neither the parent drug was either?
That's correct.
From the time that a person ingests cocaine to its complete, to its inactive state, is there a length of time that can be medically said to be done, or how do you, what would you say to that?
That's getting outside of the area of my expertise
Okay.
because it depends on many factors. It depends on how much is ingested, if there are repeated uses or just one use. So I can't give you an answer for that.
Okay, very good. But let me ask you, said the 4.5 hours, that's based on what?
The 4.5 hours is the half-life of the benzolecamine, the major metabolite. So if somebody ingests cocaine, it's then metabolized into the benzolecamine. That benzolecamine...
How long does it take for it to metabolize into the B word?
The cocaine has a half-life of 0.8 hours, so it's very fast metabolizing. But again, that will be a process as well. So after 0.8 hours, half of that cocaine will have been gone into benzolecamine and other metabolites.
And then it takes 4.5 hours after it's turned into the B word in order to be inactive.
No, as soon as the cocaine is metabolized into the benzolecamine, as soon as it's transformed, it's then inactive. Only the cocaine itself is active.
Okay.
So it's a process by which the cocaine is declining over time, the benzolecamine is going up because the cocaine is transforming into benzolecamine, and then the benzolecamine will also be declining. So the half-life of the benzolecamine is much longer than the half-life of the cocaine. So if somebody ingests cocaine, the cocaine will be present in their blood for some time, but the benzolecamine will be in their blood for much longer than that.
Okay, good.
And to be clear, the half-life means that only half of it has been done away with through the body's metabolism process.
That's correct.
So if, hypothetically, using 10 milligrams of benzolecamine in the system, after 4.5 hours it would be down to 5?
Well, how does that hypothetical track with the facts? Did we measure how much benzo?
Judge.
A expert is allowed to ask a hypothetical.
But
I will counter with this. This hypothetical is just something to help you. It has nothing to do with, nor may you use it to determine if, in fact, any evidence in this case as to whether or not you did ingestion. We're just trying to figure out, what it does. Okay?
So
You can't use that to say, well, she said 4.5 hours, if we do our math and just subtract, it was this time. You cannot use it for the facts of the case. A hypothetical is basically to flush out for the judges of the facts how something may happen. And that's what it's limited to only. You cannot use it to determine if Mr. Dent ingested cocaine, when he did it, it's just a mere hypothetical. Now, anything you want to say, Mr. Thomas?
well, there is no evidence from this witness as to how much cocaine was in his system.
Actually, Judge, there is.
What I said you can't use it in this case. We're just using as a hypothetical so that the witnesses can understand. The judges, the lawyers can't even pronounce the name, so we know that you might have a little problem understanding the concept. Go ahead.
Judge, just so the record is clear, she did testify that there was 0 benzolecamine in the system. If there's 10 milligrams, let's say, of benzolecamine in the system at a particular time, after 4.5 hours, how much benzolecamine is left in the system?
Hypothetically 5.
And then after 4.5 more hours, how much is left in the system?
Hypothetically 2.5.
And it would continue at that rate until it's negligible?
Correct.
And negligible means 0. Does it mean 0?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is not what you're saying. This is just hypothetical. You told me, well, Judge, I can't answer if someone's under the influence because it takes into consideration usage, maybe weight, etc., whatever. So this is just a pure hypothetical. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I would not say whether somebody was under the influence or to what extent they were under the influence or how long ago they may have
You
used.
talk about this 4.5. Okay. okay, the dissipation rate.
Yes.
That's not one that's just a standard. It can deviate, is that correct?
That is an average rate.
Average.
Exactly. So
there
it,
are things that may contribute it to being longer or shorter, is that correct?
yes, the studies that they do take the average half-life from a group of people in the study.
Okay.
And this particular study showed that 4.5 hours was the average. So you can have people that are faster, people that are slower.
So that don't mean everybody, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
The disposition of toxic drugs and chemicals in man is an industry standard that you refer to,
Yes.
that other toxicologists refer to, as far as you know?
Yes.
You were trained to look in that book specifically?
Yes.
And that book details 4.5 hours as the metabolism rate or the half-life of benzoylecgonine?
It does specify as the average.
Just to be clear again, the blood that you tested for Mr. Dent, did it contain any of the parent drug cocaine in it?
No.
Did it contain any of the 4 metabolites or any other metabolites that you mentioned for cocaine or any other drug other than the anti-seizure medication?
I did not detect any cocaine metabolites.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor? Did you have an opportunity to review any of Mr. Dent's medical records as it relates to the medication that was given to him?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
Very good. Let's take a 10-minute recess. Be back in a minute. And we'll be finishing up with this witness. Thank you. All rise for the jury.
All right.
Okay, very good. Let's make it 11:10. I got a lot of stuff I got to do. Are we ready to go with anything? Yeah. Here, when you get your finish up. Finish up.
Because you're the witness.